Hi guys, welcome to part 4. Today we're going to add in a character model with animations, but first I want to make one adjustment to the player controller, which is to add in some acceleration. So first of all, let me know what you think of the new zoomed in text. Is this a good size now? And I'm going to create a private float called acceleration, which I'm going to set to 5. And I'm also going to create a private, needs a P, a private vector3 called current velocity modifier. And as you can see in both control schemes, we've got a vector3 motion being set to input, and input is a vector3 containing values from -1 to 1. So for our velocity modifier, all we want to do is we want to just sort of accelerate, well, rather move towards those values. So we're going to say current velocity mod is equal to vector3 dot move towards. We'll be moving, well, the current value is the current velocity modifier, the target value is input, that's what we're moving towards, and the max distance delta is our acceleration, and of course we must multiply by time.delta time. And now we can just say vector3 motion is equal to current velocity mod, and we can do the same thing in the other control scheme. Just replace this line of text with these two. Okay, and now we've got some basic acceleration. Let's just make sure that there are no bugs. That seems to be working fine. Okay, so let's add in our player model. So I've created a very simple model which you can download from the description, or you can use your own. And I've also created a very simple weapon model. So just to show these both off quickly, the player here has got some basic animations, just an idle, a run, and a walk. And the most important thing about the character is just this hold bone here, or hand bone. And in our cube player, we had a empty in Unity set up to perform the same function as this bone will. And just to show you how to set up the animations for actually holding the weapon, what we're going to do is, well, we've got this simple gun model, and now if we go into our player, open it up, I'm going to import that model just like this, and I'm going to basically move it to the hand bone and then parent it like so, parenting it to the bone. And I'm going to create a new animation called hold underscore and then the name of the weapon, so I'm just going to call that AR for now. And then if I just reset all my bones and just create a simple holding animation, something just like this perhaps. Yeah, I think that looks fine. Now I'll press I to insert that keyframe. I want it on frame 1. And I can delete this now. And I just want to make sure that the hand bone is positioned correctly. So you want the blue axis pointing forwards, and you want the green axis to point to the right. So just rotate it like that, and press I. And now all that we have to do is play this animation when that weapon is equipped, and make sure that it's parented to this bone in the same position and rotation as this bone, and then everything should work fine. So I'll just save that. And I'm going to go into my materials, and I'm going to create a new folder called textures. I've also created a very simple texture to go along with this character, so I'll import that too. Let's drag the player into the scene. Apply the player material. Doesn't need to be red anymore, we'll just make it white because the texture is coming from the color now. I mean, well, the other way around, the color is coming from the texture. And this is our simple player model we're going to be working with. And now let's copy this player controller script from the test cube, and we can just paste it in here, and we'll just disable this for now. We're not quite finished with it, but we don't want to see it anymore. Now let's put this at 0, 0, 0, and for the collider we want to just move that up to encapsulate the player. And now that we're using animations, we need to create a animator controller, and we can just call this player animator, and let's apply it to the player animator slot and turn off apply root motion. And now let's set up our animations. All of these, basically, we just want them to loop. The hold _AR doesn't necessarily have to loop, but what it does need is a mask, because we only want it to affect the arms of the character. We still want to be able to have like a walking animation while we're holding the weapon. So that's why we use a mask. We can just turn off everything and apply only the arms. Hit apply. And now we're just going to make sure that all the other animations loop. Just like so. And when you're done, hit apply. Okay. Now in the animator, let us create a new blend tree. And we can call this locomotion. And this is going to blend through our idle, walk and run animations based on the speed of the player. So we can create a float parameter called speed, and let's create 3 motion fields. And into each drag their respective animations, so the idle, the walk, and finally the run. And let's turn off automate thresholds. So at a speed of 0, of course, we want to be idle. At a speed of 5, we want to walk. And at a speed of 8, we would like to be running. So just whatever you assign your walk and run speeds should be the same thing for the threshold values in your animation. And now we actually need to set this speed parameter from the code. So in both of these control schemes, well, first we need to get a reference to the animator. So that's private animator, and we can just call it the animator. And in the start method, we'll get a reference to it by saying animator equals get comp. I'm struggling to type because my dog's motioning by bumping my arm that it wants to go outside, so just hold on a moment. Okay, I'm back. So we're getting the animator component, and now we'll say animator dot set float, and the name of the float was speed, and we want to pass in the speed, so we'll just get the square root, mathf dot square root of motion.x squared, so it can just times it manually, motion.x times motion.x plus motion.z times motion.z, and later on we'll be a little bit more precise in that, for example, when we're walking into these blocks, our actual speed is 0, so we'll stop playing the walking animation then, but for now this will do, so I'm just going to put it in the control WSD as well, just so that's up to date. And that's everything for the player controller now. Let's just make sure that to our player we assign both the player tag and the character layer, and we can just assign it to this object. And now we want to set up the weapon holding. So let me just take a moment to explain how this is going to work. Each weapon is going to have a number assigned to it, which we're going to call its ID, and some of them will have the same ID, but all of them, every weapon that's got the same ID will have the same hold animation and the same reload animation, because I'm sure we'll have a bunch of assault rifles that all pretty much get held and reloaded in the same way, so we don't want a unique animation for each of those. So we'll have a float here called weapon ID, and we're going to create a new layer, which we can call the arms layer, and make sure you set its weight to 1, and it should be on override by default. And we create a new blend tree, and we can call this weapon hold, and this is going to take in the weapon ID, and let's add in 2 motion fields. So if the weapon ID is 0, then it mustn't play any motion, and if it is 1, then we want it to play the hold assault rifle animation. And now we haven't made the weapon prefab yet. Let's get into that. So I mentioned earlier that we still had some use for this. Well, we just need to take this weapon out, and now we no longer have any use for it, so let's delete it. This weapon is basically going to act as the starting point for all our future weapons that we create. So let's set its scale to 1, 1, 1. Same story with both of these, just to avoid any issues later on. And we're going to remove the mesh, both mesh components, and now we're just left with this sort of bunch of empty game objects that have got everything nicely set up for us already. So we've got a starting point. So when we want to create a new gun, we'll take our model, we'll drag it into the weapon, make sure that it's positioned 0, 0, 0, and then we can just adjust these that they are where we want them. This needs to be maybe somewhere over here. Like that, looks good. And now we just need to adjust like rate of fire and what type of gun it is, but basically it's all set up. So that is why we're going to keep this weapon prefab. So I'm just going to drag the model out, and I'm just going to set this as a prefab, and we can call this something like weapon template and just save it. And now let's drag the assault rifle back in, and this is our first gun. We can call it ARN, I don't know, whatever name you want. And we just need to assign a material to it. So let's go here, and we'll assign the weapon material to it. That looks good. Okay, we can apply. Now let's go into the gun class, and as I mentioned, we want to have an ID, so public float gun ID. And now from our player controller, we're going to set up a way to equip weapons. So basically we're going to have a list, or rather an array of guns. So public gun, that's an array indicated by the brackets, public gun guns. Okay, so there'll be a list of all our possible guns, and you still have to decide on how we're going to get guns, whether you pick them up or buy them from a shop or whatever. But what that will do is it will call this method here, a void equip gun, which will take in an integer index, and then we'll just equip the gun with that index from the list. So what we first want to do, actually let's call this gun current gun so we don't get confused. And we want to check if we have a gun equipped. So if current gun, then we want to destroy the current gun. Destroy current gun. Oops. I should probably say .gameObject. And then we want to set the current gun to the new weapon. So let's instantiate from the list of guns the ith element, and the position, of course, will be our hand position. So let's create a public transform hand. I'll call it handhold to be more specific. So we want to instantiate it at handhold dot position and handhold dot rotation. And we want to instantiate it as a gun. Now we want to set the current guns. Well, we want to set it. We want to parent it to the handhold, so we can just say current gun dot transform dot parent equals handhold. Simple as that. And now we want to say animator dot set float. And what did we call it? Did we call it gun ID? Let's check weapon ID. Okay. So we want to set the weapon ID float to current gun dot gun ID. Okay. So let's set the ID to 1, apply it, and now we can delete this. And in the player, let's first see what it's complaining about. So we change the name to current gun, and also we only want to be able to shoot our gun if we actually have a gun equipped. So we can just say if current gun, then worry about all this input. And I'm just going to name this, rather label it as gun input. Okay, that should be all the errors. Now we need to go deep into our skeleton and find the hold bone and apply it there. Oops, current gun is actually meant to be private. Let me change that. And from the start method, we might as well equip our first gun automatically. So equip gun 0. And now let's go to our prefabs, to the new gun we just set up, and add it to the list of guns. So at the moment we just have the 1. And now if we play, let me turn off gizmos, and now you can see we're holding our gun nicely. And we can walk around, but hold on. The walk animations are, well, all the movement animations are being overridden. I wonder why that is. Let's double check our animations. The hold assault rifle. Oh, well, the mask is only meant to be applied to the arms. I'm sure I've done this. Let me just check that I didn't accidentally do it to the wrong animation. Well, either I dreamt that I did it or I hit revert. I don't know. Interesting. I'll see when I play back the video. Now, everything should be working. We're equipping our gun. We can run, we can walk, and we can shoot. Well, that's looking quite good, I think. So, let me wrap that up for the 4th episode, and I'll see you in part 5. Cheers.